Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us for this first event of the year. So, we take this opportunity also to wish you an inspiring and exciting and amazing 2023. So, warm welcome to the people that are joining us live and for all the one that will be watching this event on a recorded basis. I am very pleased to have with me Remi Smolinski, and we will ask Remi to introduce himself in a moment. But before we go into that, we want to know a bit more about your audience. I mean, let's start maybe with a small competition. Remi is based in Germany. I'm based in Switzerland. Do we gonna have more people from Germany or from Switzerland? Let's try to see. Let's try to get the participant to share us from where they are joining us. Hello, Rahul. Hello, Philippe. So let's go and tell us a bit more where you're based. Maybe if you want to tell us something about your 2023 or something that made you want to join us today, then feel free to put a comment. Just, if you're not familiar with StreamYard, you have a chat option on the right side of your screen, and that's the opportunity to tell something to us, either give us a small message right now. Hello, we have Germany there. Hello, New Jersey. Okay, we have we have Italy, Netherlands, UK, Singapore, Kazakhstan, Germany again. Fantastic. So, that's quite a variety of a very broad representation. We have at least in 3 continents, and probably we will see the fourth one in a moment. So, great. Here we have Tunisia. Yes, indeed. So we have the fourth continent as well. So thank you very much for joining us for this event. So today we're going to talk about becoming a master negotiator, and this interaction is with Remi Smolinski. Remi, can you briefly introduce yourself so that the audience can get to know a bit more about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Giuseppe, for your kind invitation. It's great to be here and share some thoughts on something that is very close to our hearts, something that we've been working on for decades. I'm a negotiation professor. I teach negotiation at Leipzig Graduate School of Management in Leipzig, Germany, a couple of other places. I also run negotiation competitions for students and for professionals. Yes, divide my time a little bit between helping people become better negotiators, between understanding what it means to become better negotiators, to negotiate well, and also giving people a platform to test themselves and compare their negotiation skills with other like-minded people within the domain of our competitions.
Fantastic. By the way, Remi is really the leading expert in the area of negotiation performance. And by the way, Remi and I are also both working at CABL, so a company that has put together a pool of the best negotiation professor, and Remi is part of it, but we have also from Harvard, from Yale, from Oxford, a number of other leading business schools in Europe and in the US. And the idea is to provide, some specific expertise to our audience. So if you're interested, check our website, www.cabl.ch, and you may discover a bit more about what we do, and also the faculty of amazing professors that are working with us. Remi, let's get started on the topic of the day. Who are master negotiators?
That's a $100 million or euro question. Yes, and the fact is that regardless of how we look at this question, the true answer is that we don't know. Sorry to disappoint you guys if you expected a firm answer to this question. The truth is that that research until recently has not dealt with this fundamentally important question. And it's because ultimately, being able to answer the question of negotiation performance is highly critical for multiple aspects of that activity. So first of all, I'm sure you guys in the audience have tuned in to learn something about how to become better negotiators, because you are negotiators. We are all negotiators, and the question is, what are the dimensions on which we can measure and capture negotiation performance? And so in general, we, before we started running negotiation competition, we faced exactly this question. And so, who can we call the master negotiator, the great negotiator, the world champion in negotiation, right? And our answer to it evolved over time. And despite the fact that the negotiation challenge, our negotiation competition, has been around for, I don't know, 16, 17 years, something like that. At first, we thought that it's all about value claiming. Whoever gets more is a better negotiator. And that was our first answer. And this answer was motivated by the fact that it's the easiest thing to measure. And so the salary we get, the price we manage to agree on, right? So this is something that we see at the end of the day. However, after a couple of years, we just realized that that's not the whole truth. That's not the whole truth, because there are two other dimensions, and one of them is the relationship dimension, which means, hey, it matters what salary you get today. It matters what price you get today, or how much revenue you get from selling your product or services. But at the same time, it matters whether our negotiation partners want to deal with us in the future. And that correlates with the strength of the relationship that we are able to build during the negotiation process. So that's the second dimension that we added. That we added to our in our competitions while measuring negotiation performance. And the third one was the process. The process is something which we would call a variable that determines the outcomes. Yes, substantive outcome, meaning prices, meaning salaries, and so on. Relationship, meaning relational outcome, yes, the strength of the relationship. But we also wanted to understand better what kind of behaviors lead to better relational outcomes and better substantive outcomes. So we started observing also the process, so how people communicate, what to say and what not to say, and how to say things. So long answer, and which summarizes, I don't know, 15 years of of evolution in our thinking. We also published something which is called the negotiation competency model. Yes, negotiation competency model, which you guys will easily find online. We can also share the link in the comments if someone is interested to have a closer look at it, in which we try to correlate observable negotiation traits. And so what can we see while looking at people negotiating, and what can we observe, what can we perceive in general while observing two people negotiate, or two teams negotiating, and try to correlate them with performance. So why did we do that? Well, because to answer exactly the question that Giuseppe kindly asked, yes? So who is a master negotiator? How can I tell while looking at two people negotiating which one is negotiating better? Yes? So we can tell only by looking at scientific results that correlate what is observable with superior negotiated results. And this is something which we did in the paper. It came out as a list of 15 factors, which we extended also by adding empathy as a separate one later on after the paper was published. But in general, to make a long story short, as research is still struggling with the question of negotiation performance, despite its importance. Short answer to your question is two dimensions. One is getting a good substantive result, which means value engineering. The other one is building great relationships. How we capture it, one or the other, we can talk at some point, maybe during our today's session.
Fantastic. Just for your information, we just posted the link on in the chat, the link to the negotiation competency model, so that you can get some more insight.
Thank
Let
you.
me build also on this idea of the measurement of performance, like the value, the substance, the relationship element, and the process is usually the one that is most forgot.
Yeah.
And by the way, the process, a lot of the process happen before the negotiation. So, having a discussion with your counterpart about, okay, what is the objective of our negotiation? By when do we want to finish? How many meetings will we need? Will it be physical or will it be virtual? Which person need to be involved? Are you the decision maker or do we need to involve other people? Which is likely to be the agenda for the next meeting? What is going to be the outcome? Like, all those kind of process elements, they are too often forgot. And then you ended up, in the typical problem. I don't know, for instance, that you gave your very best offer, you made the last concession, thinking that you will close the deal, and then the counterpart tells you, oh, well, thank you very much. Let me check with my boss and I'll get back to you, right? And then, the
Yes,
boss comes
exactly.
and they will ask for another round of concession, etc. So, don't neglect the process. I think, the value, the substance is clear, the relationship is clear, but the process element is the one, from my experience, that we too often forget in negotiation.
That's absolutely correct, Giuseppe. Let me maybe add a very quick result, which we generated together with a long time friend of mine, Peter Kesting, in one of our research projects. We noticed that in there's a very critical process element that happens before the negotiation takes place. It's an interactive element of agreeing on the timing and frequency of meetings. And it seems that I remember a few years ago, we asked the participants of our experiment to agree to set up the negotiation sessions, the timing and the frequency of negotiation sessions per email in advance. Okay? And what we notice is that the easiness or the difficulty with which this pre-negotiation, as we called it, took place, correlated with the relational outcome that the parties were able to build. Yeah? So in fact, building relationships starts already with things like how long it takes our partner to respond to our email, to respond to our request. This matters especially with new relationships, which have no sustainable basis yet. Yeah, which correlates also with how open and flexible we are to accommodate somebody else's non-critical preferences, such as timing. Timing has absolutely no impact, seemingly no impact on the substance, on the substantive result, but it seems to matter for the result overall. And so, just to underline what you said, Giuseppe, absolutely true. Process matters. Pre-negotiation matters as well. So, guys, yes, it's not only about substance. It's not only about the relationship. Process matters too.
Yeah. Sorry, your point made me come up with another idea from an article that was just published, a couple of months ago, that indicated that, and that's on the relationship piece, that if you start the negotiation with a positive statement, looking at, what are the joint goals that we want to achieve into this meeting and those kind of things, then this sharply increase the possibility that you will have a positive outcome at the end of the meeting. So again, this substance, relationship, and process, three elements to keep in mind. But let's go more in details into your negotiation competency model. What is this negotiation competency models, and how it can help on the path to mastery?
Yes. So we developed the model as a summary of our experience with negotiation competitions, right? So what we noticed, I've mentioned already at the beginning. At the beginning, we started with just scoring based on the final outcome. Yes. And then we started involving judges to watch the negotiations and assess the performance. Expert judges, experienced negotiators, negotiation professors. And what we noticed is that each of them had a different mental model for what it means to negotiate well. So what we did is we at some point we decided to look into the literature, look at the papers that correlate observable behavior with superiority of outcomes. Yes. So we looked through hundreds together with Emilia, my graduate student. We looked at hundreds of different papers which had exactly that feature, and clustered and sorted them into the model. And basically, the model consists of three areas. The first one is the overall the language. The easiest observable element is the language and emotionality. So how we communicate, how much emotion are we conveying? Are we able to interpret? Then we have negotiation intelligence, a big chunk of negotiation intelligence. What is negotiation intelligence? These are the tools, methods, tactics of value engineering. So how do I start? What do I say when? What tactic do I use with what kind of negotiator? And then we have relationship building. Yes, this is something which we included in the model, and relationship building. Trust and relationship building consists of to what extent or how much effort do I put into becoming or coming across as credible partner, as trustworthy partner, things like those. And then the basis of our pyramid is moral wisdom, which ultimately consists of two competencies, which is ethics and empathy. So, and we converted this model into the scoring criteria for our judges, and this is what the judges are using to assess the performance of our negotiators, be it student or professionals. Yes, so we also have a competition for people negotiating professionally in sales, procurement, and in other areas. And our judges look at exactly these criteria and look for the observable traits that observable traits that indicate average, above average, or below average performance. Yes, and how can we use this model for becoming better negotiators? There are three possibilities. One is still work in progress. Together with Mark Mira, who is based in the US, just founded a negotiation training company. We are developing a scorecard, which a self-evaluation scorecard based on our paper, which then leads to our self-assessment based on the negotiation competency model. So where am I? How do I see myself as a starting point? Based on that, we can apply dedicated pedagogical tools and methods to compensate for the areas where we believe that we are subpar, where we have in our self-assessment we have certain deficiencies. Yes. And by how can we do that? Well, we can do it in various ways. We can, for example, approach Giovanni or myself. I'm sorry, Giuseppe or myself. I knew something was not right. Giuseppe or myself, to get some good quality training in that particular area. We can try to strengthen that area by, for example, focusing on our next negotiation to perform well in that particular aspect. So self reflection, yes. But we can also use negotiation competitions as a platform to excel and accelerate in the areas which we believe need acceleration. Yes. So yes, there are various ways: self-assessment, getting more clarity on what my strengths are, and where I need some invest some development time. Second, use it as a guidance for reflection, and third would be to work on those particular areas, be it in real business or private negotiation or in the context of competitions.
Fantastic. Let me make a quick stop. First, there is already a one question and we're going to take it in a moment. Second, delighted, to have 5 continents in our audience, and this is your LinkedIn life. Feel free to ask the question that you want. Let's take advantage of this opportunity to discover some more about some of the elements that are indeed the key to be a strong negotiator and that can be important for you. So, use the chat, write your question on the bottom left corner of your screen, and then we will address them. Let me also take this opportunity to tell you a bit more about our next events, because we do have something else that you may be interested. I know that some of the people in our audience are working in procurement. So on the 24th of January, next level procurement business partnering. So we're going to welcoming Samir Shed, a leading consultant, and Alessandra Garcia, a senior vice president of procurement, and we will be talking about how do we really move our procurement business partner into the next level, from working for the business into working with the business, right? So a change of mindset. And then, another event that you may be interested is the webinar, Negotiating with No Alternatives, on the 20th of January, 2 o'clock, Negotiating with No Alternatives, what procurement people often call single source supply, right? So then if you're interested, there is a webinar, 20th of January, 2 o'clock. So a couple of events that may be interesting for you if you have an interest in negotiation. All right. Or in the first case, do you have an interesting relationship, right? We are talking about, which is also, as Remi just explained, and another key component, to become better negotiator. Now, let's, I have a few extra doubts, but let's get a few questions from the audience first. And we start with Raul. Can the competitive negotiation question, can the competitive negotiation may impact future status performance of the other party? Can the competitive negotiation may impact, there may be a typo somewhere in the text, so that's, I'm not sure we are sure about what Raul meant with this question. Maybe, what I suggest is, why don't we move to the next question, Raul? If you could maybe reformulate it, because there is something that a typo that went into your question, and we want to make sure that we are really getting what you really mean. So let's go to Ashish. And Ashish, what strategy to be adapted for repetitive negotiation?
Very smart questions. So typically in supply chain, for example, negotiations, we are dealing with repetitive relationships, or relationships with multiple touch points in its life cycle. So what matters is both the relationship as well as a substance. And one would think that these two offset each other, correlate negatively with each other, and nothing more wrong than this. So let me tell you guys about a couple of results which we regularly see in our competitions. Yeah. The teams or individuals who win it have the ability to combine two things together. Yes, they have the ability to create and claim value for themselves, or create value for both parties and claim a lot for themselves, and at the same time not damaging the relationship. Yes, they do it in a way which some of you might have heard it already. I called it the panda bear way. Yes, so they claim value in a way which comes across as non-intrusive, funny, non-invasive, polite, kind of a no-threat value claiming. Yes, and these are the teams that win our competitions. These are not hard bargainers, paradoxically. Yes, because hard bargainers typically end up with good results, but at the cost of ruined or significantly damaged relationships. So the teams that typically win our competition, or individuals who typically win our competitions, have this sort of really soft way of dealing with others. Yes, a very soft way of dealing with others. They are, as I mentioned, they are intelligent, smart, but funny. They are not exaggerating with their smartness, with their wits. Yes, rather than they sort of pull it back, create a loose atmosphere, a convenient atmosphere for all in the room, and in that atmosphere, they remain hard on the problem, which is something that we know we've known at least for 40 years since getting to Yes, being soft on the people, hard on the problem. But we didn't really understand, or at least I didn't understand what it means until I saw a couple of panda bears at the negotiating table during our competitions. Yeah. So, Ashish, the best thing to remember while tackling repetitive negotiation is that there is future. Yeah? And the fact that there is future does not mean that we need to make unnecessary trade-offs or unnecessary concessions. It means that we need to treat each other with respect while pursuing our objectives or pursuing our interests. Yes? So that's a long and a short answer together to this great question. Thank you for this question, Ashish.
Perfect. Let's go to Tony, very experienced procurement professional. Let's see what's her. My quick thoughts, and would like to hear your feedback. Setting your targets are key for a positive outcome. In my experience, setting a really stretch goal, which makes you feel uncomfortable, gets you and the team to focus on the result. What do you think?
Tony, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your question as well. You're touching a point, a research result, which I think is already about 20 years old. But let me maybe summarize what it's all about. Basically, we know that, especially in distributive negotiation, setting high aspirations correlates with better outcomes. So yes, your experience and your thoughts coincide with research results in this case. Yes, so research confirms exactly what you've observed, which means being ambitious about setting something which is called aspiration points or target points. Yes, in negotiation theory or negotiation science, setting ambitious goals, ambitious targets leads to achieving better outcomes. So yes, keep on doing that. That does correlate. That does correlate with better substantive outcome. Yeah, I can confirm it. In general, typically, we sometimes also check it during our classes, or negotiation workshops that we do with executives, and we ask them, so what was your aspiration value, or what was your target before, and then we live correlate it with the achieved obtained outcomes, and you see positive. Typically, you see positive. If group is large enough, you typically see a positive correlation between the two.
Yeah. And let me add a spin on an area that both Remi and I did research, the anchoring idea. If you're making the first offer, make sure that the offer is a bit outside of the zone of possible agreement, right? A bit more aggressive of what you consider to be the reservation price of the other party. Because if you start and already you say, oh, well, I don't want to ask too much, or maybe then, if you are not making an offer which is aggressive enough, then you're already eating part of the possible value that can be claimed. Too often, the fact that we don't have an ambitious goal, or that we don't make a first offer which is aggressive enough, is the first element that makes us lose some of the value that we could claim.
Yes, absolutely correct. Yes, we recently had a closer look at opening offers. Yes, and there is barely any any other moment during the negotiation process, which carries so much weight and which correlates so strongly with both economic and relational outcomes of the process as the beginning. We investigated three opening strategies. The one that Giuseppe kindly described, that means using first offer, making the first offer, and using it as an ambitiously set anchor. Yeah? Second, we looked at counter offers, whether they matter and how much they matter. And third, we also looked at the question, which I'm sure is very familiar to many people in the audience, the question of what is your best price? Yes, especially if we're selling objects on classified services such as Craigslist in the US or eBay Kleinanzeigen or OLX. If we put up an ad there, typically the first question that we hear on the phone or per email is, "What is your best price? Give me your best price." Yes, and we investigated how strong these openings are. Yeah? So we found out that, no surprise, what Adam Galinsky, Giuseppe Conti, and many others on the way in between have found out as well, and that is first offers strongly and positively correlate with the final outcome and have a very high impact on what is going to come up at the end. Second, when looked at these two remaining strategies, counter offers and what's your best offer tactic, that's not a strategy, it's a tactic. Yeah? We found out that, first of all, counter offers matter. So we can offset the negative impact of our partner's first offer by re-anchoring ambitiously, equally ambitiously, or even more ambitiously. Yes, we came up with the concept of an anchor zone, which is the distance between the first two offers, and we correlated with the final outcome. And indeed, we found out that the reaction to the first offers matters as well, but it doesn't matter as much as the first offer. So it's impossible to count to. It's very hard, not impossible. It's very hard to offset the impact of the first offer with a counter offer. And then finally, and that's my last remark here, it's super exciting. It's one of these. The second of these papers was just accepted for publication. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, this week. Which we're very super happy about. The third one is. Maybe it's a question to the audience. What do you think about the effectiveness of the question? What's your best price? Is it more effective than making the first offer? Is it more effective than making the counter offer? How would you rate the effectiveness or the impact of the question? Instead of when, for example, instead of making the first offer, say, ask our negotiation partner. So, what is your best price? What is your best offer? So what do you guys think? Share your opinions, and I'll tell you about a few words.
In a few minutes, great. Then by the way, in the meantime, we can look at the concept at the comment from Philippe. In echo to Tony Carey's question, one thing I've learned is that if you want to get something, you have to ask for it, right? It sounds self-evident, but some negotiators are just too shy. Yeah, I think that's. I think we agree, Philippe. Thank you. Let's go to Raul. That we remember we had a question from Raul that we wanted to address. So let's go to the Raul question. And in the meantime, you can write your comments about what do you think about the strategy of what's your best, asking for the counterpart, what's your best price. Let's look at the Raul question. What if one party agrees with contract, but this negotiation have negative impact on his performance due to extreme negotiation? Eventually, the negative impact performance of the other party will affect many parties who had thought to achieve a perfect negotiation.
Okay. So if someone is pushed to the wall, yes. So if we, for example, hard bargain in a particular negotiation setting and try to squeeze the last penny, last cent out of our negotiation partner, then obviously it matters in terms of how we will be perceived, how we are perceived by our negotiation partner, and therefore it matters in the future repetitions of interactions with each other. So yes, Raul, thank you for specifying what you meant with your question. Also, that we can absolutely confirm. It's exactly as you wrote. Um, and that's one of those situations which I describe, which offsets high substantive or typically high substantive results with really poor relational score. Yes, it's one of the possibilities, but it's not a necessity. It's possible to do well, equally if not better, on both of these two dimensions.
Okay, perfect. Now, before we take the next question, maybe let me just, before we start asking the answer to your question, just maybe if this LinkedIn user can give us some more insight about this. What strategy to adopt with a CSR director to achieve sales? Maybe if you could specify a bit more, because without the background, it may be a bit difficult for Remi to give you a feedback. So maybe if you can reformulate it, that will help. In the meantime, let's look at some of the comments on Remi's question. Remi question, how about going, what's your best price? First comment, very high effectiveness. Second one, it can be effective if you are negotiating in good faith. It should be avoided at the first stage of a negotiation. Less effective, it's lazy, it shows no preparation from your side. Eva, not very effective. Better for me to say what I want to pay. Philippe, less effective. I don't want to get the counterpart spend hours explaining to me why it is the best price. Khalid, Giuseppe, as a buyer, I will always wait to hear the first price and start negotiating. I also refrain from offering a counter price offer. Okay, then let's see. I will offer counter only after hearing the first price and overall fee. All right. Now we had the different perspective, so that indicates indeed that it was a good question to ask. Remi, tell us some more about your research.
Yes, thank you, Giuseppe, and thank you to all of you guys who answered this question. The beauty of first offers and counter offers is that also they are culturally determined and culturally based. Something that we want to have a closer look at this year in one of our research projects. But coming back to the best price, best offer question. Let me say 2-3 sentences about this tactic, what it means. Well, this tactic asks for our rock bottom if we are selling. Typically, is asked by buyers. By buyers, and it's asked about the lowest possible price that we are able to accept. Well, and the seller is confronted with a dilemma when asked this question. And the dilemma is based on a trade-off between remaining truthful and sticking to something which is in the literature called the default truth mode, and economic outcomes. Because if I tell the truth, then obviously what will the potential buyer want to do? Well, they will want to obviously they will insist on getting exactly that minimum price. But if I don't tell the truth, well, I can maximize my outcome, or I can increase my economic outcome, but then I would lie, or I would, let's say, might feel uneasy about that answer. So to make a long story short, this strategy, this tactic is better than making a counteroffer. Statistically significantly better in our experimental setup. But how do I frame it? How do I phrase it? There is an indication that it might be equally if not better, if not more attractive than the first offer, but it's in our experiment it wasn't statistically significant. So as a scientist, I might say we don't know whether it's better than making the first offer, but there is at least an indication that it has a powerful impact on the outcomes. And this impact is statistically significant, which means that this question does something in the mind of the responder. The responder, we speculated we speculated that this is caused by something which we call the default mode, which is our anchor, and we know where our minimum is as sellers, and when asked this question, subconsciously we refer to that minimum, and some of us try to move away from that minimum, but it works like an anchor. We cannot move too far from the minimum. So it has an impact. It has a powerful impact. We are planning to have a closer look at it and see whether it's stronger or weaker than making the first offer. But it's certainly better than waiting and making the counteroffer.
Okay, fantastic. Of course, one of the things that is going to make a difference for you, whether you want to go with the first offer or whether you want to ask the question about what is the best price that you can offer to me, is how well you know the market. Because, you can only make the first offer if you know the market very well, if you know it as well as the counterpart.
Yes.
So if you do not know the market well, then asking for what is the best price that you can offer is likely to be the best strategy that you can have.
Correct. It has something to do with information asymmetry. Yes. So typically, so far until recently, we found out that the recommendation typically is, well, if you know about the situation, about the market just as much as your negotiation partner, make the first offer. But if you don't, re-anchor immediately. Well, now we can revise it. Based on our result, we can say, well, if you don't know the market that well, do not wait. Ask the question, which will shift the attention of your negotiation partner from their aspiration point to their reservation point. So that seems to be a small change in what we've taught, at least for the last 10 years or so, and it gives a little bit of a different light, different angle on the dilemma of how to open negotiations.
Fantastic. We take a comment from Khalid. I agree with you, Remi, on the dilemma part, and I believe it's not fair to ask for the best and last offer and still negotiate. This will create another dilemma, because if you offer a discount, then he was lying, and if he didn't, then you get angry.
Absolutely, Khalid. I couldn't agree more with you. It's a great observation. Yes, this is a true dilemma. This is a true dilemma. And in our experiments, there were different strategies how to deal with that dilemma. So first of all, some negotiators boomeranged this question. And so, how much money do you have? Instead of asking about the minimum, our minimum willingness to accept the minimum price or reservation point, people revert the question. There is a question. There is a response which was going in the direction of giving a different answer. And so, what's your minimum? What's your best price today? Well, this is a great object. This is a great computer. This is a great car. I spent a lot of time riding it. I was super happy within this house. Right? Answering a different question or ignoring the question in the first place. In general, research says that questions about reservation point are indeed unethical. Yes, because they force us, they put us as negotiators in a very tight spot, in a very tight spot, which either we maximize our economic value or we compromise our ethics. So what do we do? Well, and I remember reading while we were researching this topic, reading one paper which said, well, it's unethical to ask it in the first place, so it's not unethical to answer it not truthfully, especially that it is not referring to something which is called a material fact. Yeah. So what does it mean? Well, even if I, at the beginning of the negotiation, say that my minimum is 1 million, my minimum might change by the end of the negotiation. So it's not a material fact. It's something that it's a subjective value that I develop in my mind as an owner of a certain object. So I can sell it for any value that I want, and my minimum can dynamically fluctuate up and down depending on how I feel, what I want to do, and how I like my negotiation partner.
Fantastic. Listen, we get to the end of our event. Let me ask maybe two last questions to Remy. And one is, does negotiation training help at all to become a master negotiator?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Otherwise, we would be
We won't
jobless.
have a job, right? But what did you see in that respect? I mean, what uh,
Yes,
what is your what? I
yes.
mean,
So Giuseppe, thank you for this question. Yes, there are negotiation courses, there are negotiation workshops, there's negotiation training, and it's not without the reason. Yes, so research says that well-structured, pedagogically sound negotiation training improves our negotiation outcome. And so negotiation is a skill. It's a skill just like playing an instrument or I don't know, playing football, basketball, volleyball, just like I don't know, making beautiful PowerPoint presentations. It's a skill, which means that we can learn it by repetitions and getting structure feedback. And this is what training is all about. Being able to apply what we believe that works, and then getting structure feedback to the extent of how well does it work or whether it works, right? So that's a very quick answer. And if you guys are thinking whether negotiation training, whether you as negotiator on your path to mastery need negotiation training, the answer is I'm sure you do, because the path to mastery never ends. Even master negotiations need trainings, and I'm sure Giuseppe and myself we enjoy learning from others. We enjoy being exposed also to others showing us a better path or a better how to walk or run the path to mastery in a more efficient way. So it never ends. We always need it. The forms might change.
yeah. Now, to conclude, let's go back to the title of this event. How to become master negotiator, Remy.
Yes.
What will be your key points that you want to share with the audience? How to become master negotiator.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I guess we have to answer this question, although it's not so it's not so easy to do it. Let me try to give you guys my take on it. Yeah? I believe the path to mastery. This is exactly what we're talking about. The path to mastery. That how do I improve my outcomes, the dimensions on which my performance as a negotiator can be measured. I can give you guys 3 pieces of advice. Yes, number 1 is knowledge acquisition. So that means training, that means reading, that means finding out what works and what doesn't. And so, for example, how do I start? Well, I can experiment with this question, or ask Giuseppe, for example. Hey, Giuseppe, do you have experience with negotiation opening tactics? And there is a lot of research on making the first offer, now a little bit on making the counter offer, and other alternatives. So knowledge acquisition. Number 2 is self-reflection. So most of our negotiations, we won't have Giuseppe or other coaches next to us. Yes, we will have to do them on. We will have to conduct those negotiations on our own. And so, what is critical is visualization before and reflection after. Yes, what does it mean? Visualization. That means preparing and imagining an ideal way this process should work. Yes, there's some research that it helps along the way during the process. Yeah? And second, reflection once it's ended. What does it mean? Asking ourselves a question: did it go well? Why did it go well? What maybe didn't go well? So that we can focus on on their next steps and the path to mastery on the things, on reinforcing the things that we're doing well, and maybe helping out, or maybe let's say focusing on improving those things that maybe don't work that well. And number three, and that's super important. Yes, experimenting in real business results can be costly because they might not work. So what I will always suggest that a necessary element on the path to mastery are competitions, negotiation competitions. Just like, we wouldn't have LeBron James, we wouldn't have the champions of today, or Lionel Messi. We wouldn't have Lionel Messi. We wouldn't have, I don't know, you take the master in whatever discipline is close to your heart. I saw quite a few guests or people in the audience from India, whoever is the master in cricket. Yes, there wouldn't be that master if there hadn't been if there were no competitions. So same goes for negotiation. Competitions motivate to perform well, allow us to compare systematically how good we are with other people from around the world, and get structure feedback on what needs to be from experienced judges, what needs to be improved and what really works well. And so these three things I can share with you guys in terms of the path to mastery.
Fantastic. Remi, a true pleasure to have this session with you, and also very engaged audience. Thank you very much for all the ones that participated, asking questions, give comments on the session. Look forward to reconnecting with you. Just a quick look at the future events, so that you can, if you're interested, if you're a procurement person, maybe next level procurement business partnering, 24th of January, 1 o'clock. If you want to interest to build a stronger relationship with the business, then join us 24th. If you are a negotiator and you have a challenge negotiating when you have no alternative, negotiating with no alternative, 20th of January, 2 o'clock. So that's again an opportunity to discover some new concept. So, and I also remind you that Remi and I are working at CABL. We do offer a variety of negotiation and influence training. We also offer negotiation competitions. So if you happen to have an interest, then contact any of the two of us, and we'll be happy to tell you a bit more about something that you can do also inside your company for within your department, etc. Thanks again. Look forward to reconnect with you. Thank you very much, Remi, for the outstanding session.
Thank you so much, guys. Keep in touch. Thank you, and see you. Hopefully, see you at some point in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.